Hey everybody, I'm Denali Bell and welcome to the Soapy Box. Today on our show we have Tyler Bell and Nicole Rennick.
It's my smoldering girlfriend right there. See
Yes.
her? Woo!
Smoking hot girlfriend. My son, who I'm very proud to call my son. He's also a music producer and artist.
Sure am.
And Nicole is just a recent graduate with her degree in forensic psychology. And I'm super excited given you guys' backgrounds and what you're up to in life. I cannot wait to hear some of your insights and wisdom on the topic of self-image.
Oh, yeah.
Because you both deal with it, right?
Mm-hmm. Everybody deals with it.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So today in our preparation, we did read the book Psycho-Cybernetics from Dr. Maxwell Maltz, which was really good. And I'm going to say I didn't finish it because some of the chapters I read multiple times. There was such great insight in it, practical wisdom, common sense, neuroscience, and much of it was backed with a biblical message, which it wasn't always necessarily stated that it was a biblical message, but...
You kind of Trojan horsed it.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
awesome.
Exactly. So I'm just going to also say that none of us are experts. Not one of us is an expert in psychology, sociology, anthropology, law.
We were all still working on it.
Yeah,
and
anything.
It's just nice to have the tools from that book, really.
Exactly. We're not, in the future podcast too, this disclaimer we'll probably mention again. We're just students in life. Like we're on the same journey you're on, but we've had some bumps, bruises, and scrapes that maybe you can learn from so you don't have to get them. And it's always better to leapfrog off somebody else's mistakes than you don't have to get as bruised or end up in the ditch as long as maybe we did in some of these areas. And like there's a particular area that we're going to talk about that I was in the ditch for many years in my life. So it's super important to have a healthy self-image because it really determines your happiness, your success. So Tyler, why don't you tell us a little bit about what self-image is and how do you develop it?
Yeah, self-image is pretty much just how you see yourself, and it's based on like how you've seen yourself based on your past experiences. So the two things that I like to make sure that most people know or everybody knows when we're talking about self-image is that your actions, your attitudes, your feelings, your behaviors all come from your self-image and how you see yourself. And the second point is that it can be changed. Self-image can be changed, which is really cool. And I think for all of us, we love point number 2, right?
Yes.
And I've struggled with self-image for a long time. Everybody does. And I know there was a dark time in my life that I just saw myself as completely worthless and not deserving of anything. But here I am today, just at a completely different point. You know what I mean?
It's hard to hear as your mother, to be honest, that you ever felt that way. But I felt the same way. And I think a lot of people in the world at some point don't feel great about themselves.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
Exactly. So, Nicole, what areas of our life does self-image affect?
I really think it affects everything, to be honest. I think it's really every aspect of your life, especially... I don't think you can really be that successful if you're not really prioritizing taking care of yourself in that sense, in any aspect.
Yeah.
Yes. I think it's really important for our mental health, for even our spiritual health. Like if we don't see ourselves as God sees us, how do we even grow? Because then we see God as kind of like this mean dictator. Like I don't think we see things properly. Yeah. I think we see things improperly.
Yeah.
So I think I want to discuss a little bit about let's dive into the negative stuff. The negative stuff is hard to talk about sometimes, and we don't want to be there, but it's important to know what causes some of these issues or the experiences we have in life that create negative self-image, or how do we correct it if we're not aware, or how are we even motivated to want to correct it?
Yeah.
Anyone have any experiences they want to share?
Yeah, I know for once I can be very judgmental, and Nicole knows this.
Yeah.
She sees it a little bit deeper.
Well, no, you're not really that judgmental. I think we all struggle with it.
Yeah. I'm working on it, and it's gotten a lot better over time. But say maybe about a couple months ago, I have a hard time in the car. Like when there's somebody being a real meanie on the road,
rager.
you know what I mean? I get road rage and I start to pick right at their weak points and what I
Judge
can
them.
see physically first, you know what I mean? And I can get ugly in my head real quick. And it was just, I don't like being there. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't think we feel good about ourselves when
Yeah.
we are like mean about somebody, even if it's just in our head.
Yeah. And I think a big thing that I learned from that book is you unintentionally judge yourself the way you judge others.
It's interesting.
It's
isn't it?
interesting. And it's weird how I can find it like, and especially the points that I struggle with the most, like, oh, you're doing this thing that I have had a problem with. Like, now you're especially bad for it. And I'm coming at you just because of that one thing. You know what I mean? Because I'm struggling with it right now. And I'm not aware of it because my pride's in the way.
There was a speaker who I once heard, I can't remember who it was, but she said, it's interesting how when we have a victory in one area, even after we've struggled, how horribly judgmental we can be to other people who
interesting.
just haven't arrived at the victory yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing as like sometimes when I see somebody or they irritate me or something in them rubs me wrong, I will say almost always it's something I don't like about myself.
Yeah. I agree.
I just don't want to talk about it or deal with it. I want to pick on it in them, and I guess I don't have to work on it in myself.
Yeah. Compassion's really the key. And you said one thing about like finding like the beauty in people that you see like anywhere, like as much as you can in every person, and like making it like a practice and like intentionally choosing to see the beauty in the person that you might be struggling with in a particular moment.
And I think the other kind of semi-good thing, I guess, is if you judge someone and you're immediately pretty aware that you did it, I don't think everybody has that awareness. And I think the fact that you even have that awareness just shows you're trying to be better.
Yeah, for sure.
So that shows
agreed.
a lot, you
Yeah,
know?
thank you. I
I
appreciate
mean,
it.
I feel like when I was a teenager and I was just an angry 16-year-old and I was judging people, I don't think I was really as self-aware as I would be now, I guess. You know? So
Well,
that's a big step.
It is.
thank
I
you.
was telling you guys, I don't know if I should share this story. Yesterday we were shopping and I was telling you about what my dad and I used to do for fun. And we just thought that was fun. We would go to the airport early because that's when you could still, everyone could go to the airport and we get ice cream, and we'd make fun of people walking by. Like
people
we
watch.
called it people watching,
Yeah.
but it wasn't nice. And we looked forward to it, but I didn't realize how destructive that was. And
It's the nature behind it in your heart, right?
is.
So, and judging other people comes from insecurity about yourself.
Well, that's what we
always.
were tearing
Yeah.
apart, right?
Yeah, you're insecure by yourselves, but it feels real good to beat somebody else up for it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And it was very unhealthy, but it was also weirdly a bonding moment with my dad. So it was kind of an interesting experience that I thought about several times throughout my life, but which probably leads us to the next topic. Properly so is growing up, I grew up in a complicated family. And I had this constant need for approval and validation. And I think, a lot of people have that. Like, we all want to be approved, but I think mine was extra.
I
And
struggle with it too.
yes, so
Yeah.
I didn't know how to be me. And I don't know if this is necessarily a poor self-image or no self-image at all. Because what I would do is I would just become whoever I thought that person wanted me to be.
Yeah.
As a teenager, I think you want me to be this wild party girl, and then you'll like me, and I'll get invited to the parties.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to do a
worked.
bunch of drugs and drink and I'll be the first one to do it in my grade so I can show that
Yes.
I'm harder than everybody else. You know what I mean?
Sadly, I think I was the same person. So,
I don't think it's your fault though.
but it was, and it morphed into my marriage and with my relationship with my mom and even with you, where, okay, this is who Tyler needs me to be, and I want him to like me. And sometimes instead of being a parent, I would be that person to
Yeah.
you because I wanted you to like me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't probably till the last decade that I started working on it. And I'm not sure that I'm completely 100% healed from that, but it is something I have to think about. Like, who am I in this moment? Who am I? What do I want in this moment? What is real? Or am I doing this to make this person like me? I have to actively ask myself that quite a bit. And then that probably created a victim mentality as well, which is a third point that we're going to talk about, is this need for this constant validation and approval what would happen is I would do all these things for people. I would do favors. I would like, okay, this person needs this done. Well, I'll do it times 10. And then they'll like me. And then they never acted like they were supposed to. They didn't fall in love with me. And so then I'd be frustrated and resentful. And then I was a victim. And so I think the victim mentality, and that happens different ways to different people. I mean, there's people who are truly victims of horrifying things.
Yeah.
But you have to choose, am I going to be a victim in this situation or am I going to be a victor? And I think that victim mentality, we can stay there. Like, it's not hard to find a reason to feel sorry for myself.
And it's a cycle because it's a dopamine hit, right?
Yeah, it feels good.
It feels good to
It does.
feel like the world's against you.
And then the second you get people to kind of sugarcoat you a little bit, feels even better.
It does, doesn't
Get
it?
addicted to it.
Come on, feel this. Do you know what she did to me?
But for me, I feel like the best moments are when somebody calls me out and is like getting really real with me. And like, that's when it's like, ugh.
And I'm the type that
release.
really likes honesty in that sense, just brutal honesty. I
Sometimes
grow a
it's
lot
hard
from
though.
it.
It is. I think it is. The brutal honesty is hard. We'll talk about that a little bit later in strategies.
Yeah. We'll get there. I know jealousy in comparison is a hard one for me.
I think the world has an
like
issue
judging.
with this. It is. It is a similar, I think it's a cousin to judging, and it's all from pride, right?
Pride and
Pride is probably the root.
Rooted in insecurity.
Yep. But the jealousy in comparison is huge, right? When we compare ourselves to somebody we're not, it's like saying we're not good enough to ourselves.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not good enough. I need to be who you are.
It's interesting. I remember like when I was first making music and stuff and I was showing you and Dad about it, I was just comparing myself to like the hot 100 artists, you know, and you guys were like, you're just as good. But I was like, no, I'm not. Look at these guys. Look what they're doing. Look at their videos. Look at all this stuff they have. And it's like, the first 5 months of me making music, I was comparing my first step to their 10,000 step. You know what I mean? And I do this too with like friends as well that are getting shine or like in music. And there's like this jealousy, like, oh, they can have it, but I can't. You know what I mean?
But it steals so much. Do you hear what it stole? It stole the joy of the journey.
Yep.
And it stole the joy of you knowing that this is where you are.
Yep.
And that's where you were supposed to be.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm not saying I haven't been there. I'm just saying I recognize that in myself as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting. It's weird how like unaware of it I was too. Cause I was like, I just didn't think I was good enough. And I was like, why am I not good enough? Cause all these people are doing better than me. But I just wasn't knowing myself in the process, knowing where I was at. You know what I mean? I was just comparing.
And I think with social media, and especially, and I don't want to say only as women, because I know you guys deal with this as well, but social media, it's hard not to compare yourself. I mean, I grew up in a different generation where maybe I don't spend as much time on that part of it. My time's probably spent doing, even less productive things on social media, like watching dogs on TikTok. Seeing Wasn't Me, but by Shaggy. Totally inappropriate, but if you ever do get a chance, you should look at it.
Oh yeah, that's funny.
But there's almost this fake comparison that I think can happen for women your age that just scares me for you guys.
Yeah, I feel like one thing that really freed me from that feeling of comparison and jealousy, especially in social media, I think being aware that I think when you're comparing yourself to people, you just forget that these people are also people as well. You almost look at them as little trophies and you don't really realize that they probably are feeling the exact same thing as you, and who knows, they're probably comparing themselves to you.
It's interesting to humanize that thing that you're looking at.
And it really gives you so much awareness, and it almost just like kills that need for comparison in your head.
Yeah.
So I feel like the society in general, like even when I was a kid, right? We had magazine or teen magazine, and that's what we had. But you guys have social media. Like there was these impossible beauty standards. There were these impossible, and they could change, right? Because Marilyn Monroe was extremely voluptuous and beautiful, which I would have been like perfect for her time. And then when I was growing up, it was like this heroin chic, really thin, wavy girls with boy bodies. And I'm like, there's just no way.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of probably when I was your age. And I just always felt wrong. Like my clothes weren't meant for the clothes that they were building then. And I think of the girls now who have that in addition to these ultra perfect Instagram models, because they're perfect by filters, right? These like young
Photoshop.
Yes. And you know, it's awesome that you see that, but there's these 16-year-old girls who are watching this thinking they're not enough.
Yeah.
Well, and it always changes. You're never going to be enough. You're never going to please the world. Like one person can please the whole world. You know what I mean?
I think you hit the nail on the head there. I mean, that's it.
Can only please God.
We need, that's probably should be one of our strategies. If it's not, is, you know, conforming to this world is just an ill-gotten adventure.
It'll never work.
Yep.
You will never make the world happy.
No.
Yeah.
And you'll never be happy or successful.
Yeah. You'll never be happy or successful trying to make any.
Yep.
Buddy
Conforming
happy.
to
Yeah.
what the world says you should be.
Yep.
Or your friends or your family or anyone. It's true. So negative self-talk. I think, again, anyone could have this happen, right? Where you have these things in your head that you say that are negative.
It's the hardest thing, I feel like, to master. It really is, because first of all, you don't know what's like you're doing it. You know what I mean? You don't know when it's happening, and then you start to become more aware of it, and you have to like force yourself to redirect that negative self-talk. And it's hard to do that when you're in a loop of doing it often. You know?
It sucks because you really trick yourself into believing yourself when you self-talk negatively.
Especially if it's a repeated pattern. It's just like any habit. I think he kind of addressed this in the book too, but you would just know this if you've ever created a habit. Something voluntary becomes involuntary. You know, you brush your teeth every day. You don't really think about it. It just happens because it's a habit now. But if you keep saying these, like, I don't even want to say it out loud, but because I don't want to give power to any words, but I'm going to say, I'm dumb. I'm fat. I'm not good enough. My nose is too big. I don't have enough education to do this. I don't have enough.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough. If you say any of those things or have any of those thoughts in your head, it becomes part of your identity and part of who you think you are.
It perpetuates into your reality. Like,
it does.
100%. And it's weird. Like, even when as far as like, I feel like I can convince myself into an asthma attack.
I think that's truth. I think
identify with
in that.
asthma and convince myself that I'm having one and make it happen because I'm anxious or worried about my breathing, especially when I don't have an inhaler on me because like it's so severe and I'm like, I'm uneasy. And then I start to think and make that worry turn into an asthma attack. It's so crazy.
I think our thoughts and words have much more power than we give them credit for.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody can manage their heart rate with their thoughts, that happens. That's recorded. People can do that. We can manage a lot, right?
Yeah.
The Bible tells me so.
I agree.
What a man's heart, what he thinks is, so is he. I mean, you know, whether you're Christian or not, doesn't make it not so.
Yeah.
And for the non-Christians, my favorite quote, I think it's on almost everything I have, is whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right.
Yeah, I like that too.
So, Tyler, one of the other issues you see in people with self-image is what they call the failure mechanism, and he describes that in the book. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so when you, I'll start with an example. So, like, when you're sick, you are aware of your symptoms, right? It doesn't feel good. You get nausea or whatever, and you're not a fan of it, but it shows you that you're sick and it's a course correcting symptom, right? And you get to see it and it's a signal.
The symptom makes you aware that there's something wrong.
Yeah, yep,
Okay.
exactly. So when we fail, we have a defensive mechanism and we use that because we think that it's going to bring us happiness, but it never really does. And it's when we see those defense mechanisms, and I'll say them right now. Let me find it real quick. Frustration, helplessness, and futility is F. A is aggressiveness, I is insecurity, L is loneliness, U is uncertainty, R is resentment, E is emptiness. And I would go check out the book and read about how each of those defense mechanisms like are A a sign and are not bringing you to happiness.
But you could see how any one of those could happen when you fail.
Yeah, exactly. So like I don't do something right and I get angry and lash out on those around me, right? I can notice in that moment that I'm being angry and this is just a defense mechanism that I'm pulling out, right?
Or I might get insecure.
Yeah, or I might get insecure. And then when in the book, it describes the root of all of them and why you feel that and what you can do in order to move forward. So like insecurity is, or like having compassion for others because you don't see your own self-worth is one of them. Yeah.
So it gives you a way to redirect your thought. So you come in with a thought. Okay, so let's say I failed at a business. So when your dad and I, when you were little, we lost everything in around 2008, 2009. And we created a huge failure mechanism, right?
Yeah.
We got scared.
Yeah.
Even afterwards, because we lost everything. We lost our home. We lost our savings. We lost everything. And it was our fault. You know, we over speculated in the building market, but we felt like failures.
Yeah.
And we came across defensively. I remember I said some snotty things that I would not have said to anyone, to somebody trying to collect money from me. I mean, the poor guy was wanting to feed his family and I'm yelling at him.
Yeah.
And, but it took years. In fact, we were just discussing this morning that we just realized that we're still scared a little bit. We don't take risks that we even know we should.
Yeah.
There's still a little fear in there.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's weird how much it holds you back and how, like, you think you use it because you think it's just going to make it better. It's going to solve your problem, but it never does. And it's a sneaky little lie you've been told.
It is. But redirecting that into like bravery instead of fear.
Yeah.
And just getting through something teaches you, that wasn't true.
And
I can do this.
It's not like you can't like have a failure mechanism. Everybody struggles. It's not like you're not going to have these things pop up from time to time, but you can use them to be aware and practice the awareness of these defense mechanisms that come with failure.
I think that example I just gave about when we lost everything, or this happens in life. There's false programming and beliefs that we have. And it can happen when you're a kid, right? Somebody can say an innocuous comment. You can have a boyfriend that says you're not good enough. You can have a husband that tells you, oh, you've gotten really chunky. Not my current husband. My husband is a saint. He loves me all sizes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Jesus. But it can be an innocuous comment. Or I had a high school counselor who told me I wasn't college material. And so it creates a belief system. Or let's say you grew up in a family where you were neglected. You didn't maybe feel worthy. And maybe that, kept going in life. Because what happens is when we have this false programming beliefs, it starts with just a thought. And then we look for a way to reinforce that thought. And it especially insidious in children because they think everything's their fault. They think they have a lot more power than they really do.
Yeah, right.
That's
funny. That's interesting.
We'll use the neglected child as an incident. Or maybe somebody who didn't feel loved, right? So then they don't feel worthy. But then when they see it again, like a friend doesn't treat them right, it feels like it just confirms that belief. And then they become a hammer looking for a nail. They become a hammer looking for reasons to believe they're not worthy. And if they don't find it, they create that situation. So false programming beliefs, which I have had issues with, in different areas of my life. Food in particular has been an issue for me where I've had some weird programming and belief systems that I've had to deal with. Is it true? Am I really obese and fat?
No.
No.
I'll tell you 100 times
I'm not.
over.
And I'm probably the heaviest. I'm not usually this heavy, but
you don't look like it to me.
But I'm okay. I'm like, this is where I'm at. I'm 50 and I feel good.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying I want
God wants you healthy. That's
yes.
all. Yeah.
And he wants my mind healthy.
Yeah.
He doesn't want me focused on that because then guess what? Then I'm not going to go jump in the pool with you guys.
Yeah.
Then, I mean, you know how much I missed out on life worried about dumb stuff because I didn't want somebody to think I was fat.
I know, it's crazy, huh?
Yes, because somebody told me I was.
It's hard. It's hard though to be in that moment and to be so like maybe insecure about a certain thing, right?
Yes.
It's crazy how much just one comment changes like everything in your life.
Mm-hmm.
It is so true. And I think that's part of improving our self-image, right? We're talking about the things that hurt it. Mm-hmm. And I think when we get to those, we're going to talk about strategies to overcome that.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, it's a scary time. Anyway, I didn't even like actually going back there just now, thinking about that time.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel good, huh?
It doesn't. But I mean, other people might be going through it. So let's move on to happier thoughts. Let's talk about characteristics. Like let's do our avatar of a person with a healthy self-image. Mm-hmm. What do they look like to you?
Oh, they are
motivated, disciplined,
happy, physically fit, successful, probably got some money, but they don't care because
it doesn't matter.
They make enough.
They'll make more.
They make enough.
They'll go make more.
Yeah, they make enough.
Yeah.
They have probably more peace and joy in their entire life.
I think they're willing to take risks because they know if it doesn't work out, they'll just go do it again.
Yeah, they have the confidence to do it.
Yeah.
Confidence.
Mad confidence.
Mad confidence. Security. I like all that.
The opposite of what we just talked about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Honestly, yeah.
Actually, I had a list here. I'm seeing if we hit them all. Yep. Oh, except for, my favorite, no need for external validation. They don't have this need to conform to society's standards, to the world's standards. They have their own drum and they're marching to it and they're secure in it.
And I feel like identity, like they know their identity.
Yes, they know who they are.
Yeah.
They know who they were created to be. They know their purpose.
I mean, when they see themselves, they have a clearer image.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Their self-image. Yeah.
I agree. So we're going to talk about experiences.
The mirror isn't foggy. You know what I mean? When they look in the mirror, the mirror isn't foggy.
I like that.
They're wiping it and it takes a little effort, to make those wipes. And then it kind of gets foggy again, that's right? Good. When the humidity comes back and you got to keep wiping it.
It's true.
Because it's not easy to just nip one of those in the bud. You know what I mean?
You have to put in a lot of effort for that.
Yeah, it takes effort. It takes repetition, consistent and intentional repetition.
Especially if you didn't grow up in a healthy home.
Oh, yeah.
Or if you didn't grow up with somebody who had those basics. If you didn't grow up with somebody with a healthy self-image, like how did you learn? Because that's how we learn, is by modeling and experiencing.
Absolutely.
So, and that's the state of our world today, frankly. Or probably since the beginning of time, there's probably been dysfunction roaming around.
Yeah.
So I'm so excited. We get to move past the negative stuff.
Yeah. Let's get forward.
Well, and so we'll probably still address some negative things because we have to when we're addressing the strategies, like what are our experiences of things that have created a better self-image within us. Mm-hmm. Do you guys have any strategies that you would like to share?
I think just taking care of myself, even if it comes to just like having enough discipline to work out 5 times a week, I think it makes a big basis for everything else I'm doing in my life.
I think it's like you completed a goal, right? Mm-hmm. So it's success. Mm-hmm. And we have to have those successes to feel good about ourselves.
Yeah.
And they talked about this in the book even a little bit where, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to fail. We're going to do things wrong, right? But if you're a baby and you're trying to grab the rattle or you're trying to learn to walk, you wouldn't call that baby a dummy or an idiot for not being able to walk the first time. Could you imagine? You didn't walk the first time.
Bro.
Don't even try again. Don't even try again. Just get back on the floor.
Yeah, right. Oh, that's funny.
But I think just even something as simple as working out is a good stepping stone.
I think so.
Yeah.
What I love about working out, because I'd work out too, is it sets me up for success for the day. Mm-hmm. I feel more confident about myself regardless of where I'm at. I always feel better if I work out.
Yeah.
And it is this mini discipline where it creates discipline in other areas of your life. Mm-hmm.
So it's like a cold shower in that way, or like a cold plunge where it's like you put yourself through discomfort because for long-term benefit, you know what I mean? And you know that, okay, that was something hard that I achieved today. I can do more of that. You know what I mean? I'm capable of achieving hard things.
Yes.
Yeah. I love people that can do cold plunges. I wish I could do it.
I've tried the shower. I've got 3 seconds in, and I feel like that is a big deal.
There's this dude that does it, and like way up north, like Canada up north, and it's snowing all the time, and it's always ice, and he just gets in.
He's probably just used to it at that point.
I know.
In all
it's
fairness,
just
we all live in Arizona.
Well, he always talks about like, I really don't want to do this today, but I committed on social media. You know what I mean?
You kind of wrote about that, and I've tried, but it's hard.
I think starting with the showers is a good place. Like I feel like I've heard people think it's like colder, you know what I mean? Because I feel like the air moving around, but just kind of gradually getting colder and colder and colder and getting used to it a little bit. Because when you just flip it right to cold, it sucks.
So a strategy is trying something and completing it and doing it.
Yeah.
Even if it's 3 seconds. So success breeds success, which helps us build our self-image.
Yeah, momentum.
Yeah. So deciding to want better for yourself, Tyler. That's on our list of topics.
Yeah, I was about to hit it. I remember there was like a season in my life that just so ashamed of myself. I felt like the villain, and I identified with being the villain. You know what I mean? And I thought that's who I was and who I was, in a weird way. Because I just ended up hurting so many people in my life at that time. But I knew it was just so like unsustainable for myself. I was coming to an end of like who I wanted to be. I needed to figure it out. And really the biggest step was just deciding to want more. And I remember calling you one time. I was like, I'm depressed. Like, I need help, Mom. You know what I mean? You're like, all right, well, I'm going to come down. We're going to figure this out. And you gave me the Miracle Morning book. And that was like, that alone, like, just was like, oh, there's a whole new side of my world.
Yeah.
Flip. And it was like deciding to want better for myself, just ultimately, and take like actually consuming knowledge that's going to bring me forward. Right. Cause I couldn't, and sometimes it's as simple as just, I just want better now.
Yep. You have to decide you want something and then go after it a little bit.
Yeah.
And
just
I think
dipping your toes in the water even a little bit, because all the time it just comes out. You'll always end up better than where you were in the first place.
And it's easy to soak up in all those feelings that you had before. Like it's hard to take that step.
It's easy to be in misery because I think that depression and self-loathing, I was reading in one of your articles, you get a dopamine hit.
Yeah,
You totally
like
do.
how we said earlier. Yeah,
And that's the depression shame loop cycle,
Yeah.
whatever, the spiral, and it gets worse and worse and worse. And then it's so much harder to get out of it.
And I believe after reading that information, that's why people get stuck in addiction.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Stuck in depression, stuck in addiction, stuck in.
I think sometimes I'm not going to even say this because this is a soapbox moment. This is a Denali opinion moment.
Yeah, stand on your soapbox, Mom.
Here's my soapbox.
Your
I
opinion
think
matters.
sometimes depression can be an addiction. Having been there myself, you can get addicted to the feeling and wanting to be there.
I agree.
I agree
with that. I'm living in shame and like wanting to be it's kind of victim mentality, wanting to be the victim, wanting to be this person so I don't have pressure of
Yes. And then I want everyone to know it.
fixing it.
Do you see what I'm going through? Don't you see?
Feel bad for me.
Yes.
And it takes responsibility of you fixing it for yourself, right?
Yes.
A little bit.
Yes. And I think that's where, leading me to our next segue, truth. That was one of the experiences I've had, is living in absolute truth. Digging through those past traumas sometimes and digging through my life and knowing what's true and what's not. And that's difficult when you've been lying to yourself a lot of years, because you have to figure out what's true and what isn't. And that's a difficult process. Your dad and I had a rocky time in our marriage a few years ago, and we've been together almost 30 years.
Ooh, let's go.
I know.
I feel so blessed for that. Thank you guys for figuring it out.
Yes. Thank you. I have to say, I prayed about our marriage, and it's better than it could ever be. And I'm going to be honest, it's when we put God in the center of our marriage that's when it got better. But that's when we also started seeing truth.
Yeah.
That's when we started getting brutally honest with each other.
Yeah.
And I mean, brutally
Having the hard
honest.
conversations you've been avoiding for 20 years.
It was. I mean, I don't even know if we avoided a conversation or we didn't even know. I really truly thought he was the source of all my problems.
Interesting.
I thought his personality issue was the source of everything. I didn't realize that my codependent behavior, my enabling behavior, because he has huge anxiety,
Yeah.
but I would enable it
Yeah.
because it would cause him anxieties for me to do certain things. I just gave up on the things that I loved in life because I didn't want him to have anxiety.
Yeah.
Because I thought, okay, this is just easier. So when I started being who I was supposed to be, I thought he was going to leave me.
Yeah.
I totally thought he was going to leave me. I thought, oh, he's not going to like who I really am because he doesn't even know who I really am, in all fairness. It would have been totally righteous of him to leave me. Like, I didn't marry this girl.
Yeah.
But he didn't. We worked through it. And
Well, he probably ended up
enjoys
loving
it.
you more.
He did.
Because you're who you are.
He does.
People love
I truly
authenticity.
believe that.
Yeah.
I think he must have saw bits and pieces of me in there.
Yeah.
But it was just this beautiful thing. And now we have like a pretty dope honesty, I'd say.
Say it, dude. Yeah.
But it's brutal. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm trying to manipulate you because I want you to do this instead of just asking you to do this.
Yeah.
And he'll say the same similar things because it'll happen. We'll have some clarification. And it's kind of this beautiful truth that I mean, there's a deeper love. There's a deeper connection that I didn't even know was available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's something that me and Tyler prioritized a lot, especially in the beginning of our relationship, is having that truth.
Yeah.
And I think it made us both more authentic, even in our individual lives.
Yeah. I'm kind of like radically honest sometimes
Yeah, you are.
in moments that it's
We
inappropriate.
can do it nice.
Yeah. Like inappropriately and
Yeah.
like that. You didn't need to say that to me right now. You probably just need to say that to me in
I
general.
don't think we need to be honest about the other person. We need to be honest about ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Even
think
then
that's
sometimes.
what, and sometimes, Dad and I will be in a conversation. I'm like, that's not true. You're telling yourself a lie on that one.
Yeah.
Like, because you just know them so well.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's not really what you want. That's not really what you're asking for. Like, let's just be honest.
Oh, that's funny.
But he does the same thing to me. But there's a freedom in our relationship now. And I kind of see that within you two as well. And it feels like you guys are both give each other room to grow and learn.
Yeah.
It feels like an iron sharpens iron relationship, which
I
is
agree.
why I so adore you and love you and excited about the
We
way
call each other out. Sometimes,
Yeah, we do.
sometimes it's hard.
We always have super deep conversations too. It's fun.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think I just feel blessed that we get to put Jesus in the middle of our relationship. That's I didn't understand what that really was. You know what I mean? And I just feel super blessed to be able to have that with somebody.
and to have somebody who is wanting the
I know.
same thing
Oh,
is
man.
such
I
a
love it.
blessing.
I feel so blessed.
In this time and day and age,
I know.
it's a huge deal.
And she's smoldering.
And she's smoking hot.
That's my baby. I love you.
Our
Thanks.
smoking hot Romanian.
I love you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, we don't want to embarrass you, but we do think you're beautiful, and we love how you cook. So,
Yeah, you kill that. Yeah.
Thank you.
and you're smart.
Thanks.
Yeah. Everything man can wish
Anything else?
Well, just in case you had any false programming, I haven't picked
funny.
up on any. I was just saying. He didn't pick up on anything because I'm part psychologist. Just joking.
for. Just joking. That's funny. You're silly.
So those are, I think some of our great experiences. Like, I think I want to talk about some strategies. I think most things, I'm going to start with, most things start with a thought. We kind of talked about that with the false programming and belief system. Everything starts with a thought, and it's really kind of what we do with that thought.
Yeah.
So I really like the idea of visualization as a strategy and visualizing what I want and what I see. And I incorporate God in that. I get if you're not a Christian, that's not a requirement. You can still visualize what you want in life. And just a side note, the biblical principles work, even if you're not a Christian. They do work.
Yeah.
Which is why some people get confused why things are happening for people who aren't Christians that are in the Bible. It's because they work for everyone. Because God's not a liar. So, I like the visualization and being able to see what I want and think about it and prepare for it. So like if you're preparing for a test or a sales call, if you're a salesperson, and visualizing, okay, what kind of questions do I think this kind of person is going to ask? And I kind of run through them in my head. You know what I mean? When I used to do more sales, and I'd run through those through my head and kind of have an answer for anything they might ask. And though I didn't always have all the answers, I felt more confident walking into the situation. And I came out okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I always did well.
Yeah.
I always felt good about it at the end. Like, okay, I might have not done that perfectly, but I gave it my best. I tried my hardest, and that's all I can do.
Yeah, for sure.
And I learned from it, and it was good.
I remember somebody told me when you're visualizing, like visualize like you when you reach the moment that you really like got it, right? And envision what it all five senses, smell, taste, hear, like look like. What does it all look like? And then visualized all the steps that it took for you to get there and all the steps forward and really concrete like that visual like understanding of what it really looks like.
Yes. And I think that I agree completely with that because I do a visualization practice. And it's important because it helps breed success, and success helps increase your
It's kind of like
self-image.
just looking at your goals, right?
Yes.
You can kind of see like, oh, this is inspiring to me. This is what I want. This is motivating to me.
And if goals is an overwhelming word for you, use the word projects. Some people get overwhelmed by that word goals, but whatever it is, like whatever you're working
Most
on,
overused
whatever
word
you
in
want,
self-help.
Yes. Whatever it looks like. I think visualizing yourself even being successful or achieving something or setting a goal and making it or finishing a project, even just visualizing that success helps you breed more success, which increases your self-image.
Makes it feel real, like you could actually achieve it, like you are achieving it or you have achieved it already.
And I think some people are in such a bad place, and I've been there myself, where you're like, I can't achieve anything.
Yeah.
So you have to go like for a small goal. And I love your working out idea because it's a small goal. Okay, I'm going to work out 5 days a week. I've achieved that. Oh my goodness, I did that.
And it's something so small as like taking just 30 minutes of your day, you know?
Yes.
I feel like if you just learn to push that aspect of your life, it's going to be really easy to have the discipline for anything else.
And then you have the success that you can use to visualize future successes. Because sometimes it's hard to visualize success if you've not had it.
Yeah. I think that's a first great step for anybody
I
trying
do.
to build their self-image.
Yeah,
I do too.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's just prioritizing yourself.
Yeah.
I think in any aspect, it's even journaling. You know, if you really
I
wanted
do.
to
Journaling
go into that.
Right. Yeah. That one kind of saved me a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you journal?
I've done it before, but I don't anymore. But I really do think that if I started again, it would help me a lot.
I like that journaling book you got us, the gratitude journal.
Oh,
that was
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah,
They sell it at what is it, Urban Outfitters, right?
and Barnes and Noble. Anywhere.
Barnes and Noble,
Amazon,
anywhere. It's really cool.
I'll put a link to it down below.
We'll have a pop up right now.
So I think journaling is really important to me. I like it because if I do it first thing in the morning and just like there's different styles of journaling, right? I kind of like the morning pages that
I like that
Julia
too.
Cameron teaches. And I just throw out whatever my thoughts are. Like I wrote about your dove outside the other day. But it also helps me work through stuff and then I'm done with it. Like anything negative, anything good, I put on there and then it's done. It's kind of out for the day.
You just shut the book and you're done.
Yeah.
You know what's really cool? Like you have, like my favorite part about journaling is like you have a whole archive of your past and what you went through in a certain day and how you're feeling in a certain day. That's my favorite part. It's like such a beautiful gift to yourself.
It can be bittersweet.
It's bittersweet.
So
yeah.
I was looking at an old journal from a few years ago and I'm like, oh my goodness, I've come so far. And then I was like, but you haven't in some areas.
Yeah.
It's funny.
It's funny.
Yeah.
Sometimes it feels like cringy to watch like your old self go through something. You're like, I don't like that.
So continuing our theme of it starts with a thought. Let's talk about mistakes aren't failures.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've talked about this one a lot.
Yes. I've learned a lot from you on this.
Yeah. They don't disqualify you and they don't, what was the other one?
They're not your identity.
They're not your identity.
Yeah.
I think everybody goes through just thinking like a mistake just defines who you are. And if you mess up, you're not capable and you don't deserve it. And it's really not a loss like that. It's not like a failure. It's a stepping stone. And it's so hard to like see outside of it when you're actually in it. 'Cause you think like, I feel defeated. Like this was hard and I had hope that it wouldn't go like this. But when you see it's more like, I'm just closer to where I want to be now. 'Cause I understand that this was a complete lesson for me to understand and put my foot on and move forward.
Do you find sometimes when you make a mistake like that, in the moment you're really disappointed, but you find out a year later or down the road that it helped you?
Yeah.
Like it helped your growth in some other area?
Yeah, 100%. It's interesting. Like I remember my first show. Oh, afterward I got the biggest embarrassment, cringe, shame after. And everybody thought it was awesome, but I was like, no, my music sucked then. It was like the first 4 songs I ever did. I was just being bold and really like.
How old were you?
Was that 19?
Oh, it was good. It truly was. Like I honestly wasn't expecting it to be that good because at that point, he wasn't as much of an extrovert as he is now. I thought he's going to get up on stage in front of all those people.
I was nervous. All these people that care about me and care about what I'm doing. And it was like, I think I did okay. You know what I mean? Like,
no, you did. You did really good.
Well, thank you.
You did.
So the second show I did, it was like, I just kind of got like thrown out the mix a little bit. And I was at 1:45 in the middle of a club when nobody was there. And it was just a disappointing situation. So it was 2 things that felt like failures in a row that I felt like I couldn't do shows because I was like, I'm going to have to figure this out some other way. Mm-hmm. And then when I did the one in Salt Lake, like I was stoked because I actually feel like the crowd was moving. I actually got to do crowd work. I actually got to have these steps where I was like, oh, this is cool. Like,
found your rhythm.
This is awesome. And it was nice having John on stage with me. Shout out, John. I love you. But it was fun to be a part of something and have actual support, and people were actually liking it and talking to me like I could do it and I was capable of it.
I'm wondering if you were also more in the moment.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was in the moment.
Yeah. So I think it's a course correction. So I think what he mentioned in the book is when we make mistakes, it's going to happen. Everyone makes them. Nobody's perfect. We're all imperfectly perfect, right? There's no one comes out of the gate like we were talking about the baby doesn't just start walking.
You're not just a magic singer off the rip. You're not. No. You can't play a guitar without having any lessons. Like you're gonna suck at the beginning, and that's okay.
Exactly, but that's how you get better, right?
Yeah.
How many reps do you tell me?
And that's what stops everybody.
Yes, and that's where it stops everyone from even getting started on anything in life.
Well, it's all just pride.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, most of these issues, right?
Yeah.
I can't be bad at something.
Issues.
I can't be bad at something, right?
Or what?
I struggle with that a lot.
Or what? I mean, that's what I try to tell myself because I think we all struggle with that. Like, what if this isn't great? What if I put this out there and it isn't great? Well, what if we just did our best?
Yeah.
What if we just did our best and learned and grew and went forward?
This is the third time we filmed this podcast.
Yes.
Like we really... and it's the first one we're going to put out and we care about, and we got to see ourselves on camera for the first time talking. It's not easy. I hated it. We all were like, no.
I'm excited to see our 100 after this and to compare them.
Yeah.
It'll be a funny thing to laugh about.
In reality, not many people are going to see this once we are in our prime. And I was telling you that. Yeah. Like our first 5 episodes.
But we still want to put out something we're proud of.
Quality content, yeah. So it like each time, like the camera was wrong, the settings on the camera was wrong, the lighting was wrong. There was a couch right here.
There's always something just off,
and it would just seem off. But I do feel confident about this one. I'll tell you that.
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah,
I think the first 2 I didn't even enjoy because I was actually thinking of what you were talking about in your performance. I'm wondering if you even enjoyed them or if you were just like,
I was just doing it to get experience.
We were a little uptight and nervous the first 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3rd time's the charm.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. I feel so much looser. Are you more comfortable
this time?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that's important.
See, we had mistakes, and it wasn't a failure. It was just a moment to step.
But we could have just quit. And honestly, I'm going to tell you, after I saw the outtakes of the first one, I said, Dave, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What am I doing?
I know.
And it was a little scary. And I thought, no, we were called to this. We have stuff that we've learned that people might find interesting, and we have opinions that other people might find interesting.
Yep.
And I want to hear from other people. I want to learn and grow from them.
Yeah, 100%. And it's only going to get better.
Exactly.
Only going to get better.
So we're making mistakes. They're not failures. It's a way that we can course correct, right? It's a way we can say, okay, that didn't work. Let's try this. Okay, that worked good. Let's go here. If you see any success in life or any success I've ever had, and there was never a straight line.
Yeah.
It was never a straight line. There were lots of mistakes made. And I was thinking this morning about Dad and I and losing our business years ago, and how that we still stepped out and we've done things and we've tried things, but not like we used to.
Yeah.
We were bold. We were so bold. We were so brave. And I was reminding him of who we were. And that's who we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's who we're supposed to be.
It's hard. So there's emotional ties to failure. When there's an
Yes.
emotional tie to failure, it's hard to let go of it. When you can practice intentionally seeing your failures objectively as like, okay, move back on path.
Yes.
That's
and
when
I think
you see
I
it.
think what I didn't capture probably till even this morning was that's not who we are.
Yeah.
That's not who we were created to be.
Yeah.
We're bold people.
Yeah.
We take risks. We have fun. We live life. We're adventurous.
This is our opinion.
We're
This
not
is our-
living on the sideline.
Nah,
That's not who we were created to be.
no, we don't want that.
No.
Nobody really
We're going to
wants
go out there and
that.
make a bunch of mistakes.
Yeah. But there's going to be beautiful fruit because of it.
Exactly. So I know a practice that you do as well, and I do, is affirmations.
Yeah, yeah. That was a big one for me when I was in that dark season of my life where I felt like the villain was. I always thought it was kind of weird in that morning pages or the morning routine book, The Miracle Morning. It was part of the practice in the morning, and just like starting to do it
So
was pretty
you might
cool.
want to explain to them what that means. Like,
Yeah. An affirmation is
No, so The Miracle Morning was a book that you
yeah.
read that was a series of, it's kind of like a morning routine to get you going in your day to kind of reset your mind.
yeah.
And so that's what we've been referencing a few times.
Priming and kind of posturing
Yes.
yourself for the day. And that was just like a stepping stone for me. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. But affirmations is one of the steps in that routine. And man, it was a big game changer. One thing that you tell me all the time is make sure you believe what you're actually saying to yourself. So you can't say like, I'm gonna be the richest person in the entire world in a year. Like, it could happen, but there has to be like some realism in it. You have to believe it. You have to believe that it can actually happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Or it can be toxic. It can be
Yeah.
toxic to you and cause you issues if you don't believe it and you keep saying it to yourself.
Yeah.
It can cause I'm a failure, and can cause anxiety
Yeah.
and more issues.
Yeah. What you could say instead is like, I am working to be more financially stable and I will have wealth in my life. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I guess
Yes.
that's just an example, I guess.
I think it's a great example.
Yeah.
Instead of it's an achievable thing that you can work towards, that you can say about yourself that's positive. Because this affirmations are the opposite of the negative self-talk we talked about early, right? The stuff that we load our head up with.
Yeah.
Well, this is how we negate that.
Yeah.
This is how we counteract negative self-talk. We find some affirmations that we know to be true, that we believe about ourselves, and we say them when that comes in our head. So we're always redirecting thoughts,
Yep.
I think, to truth. And the truth is okay,
I'm
let's
capable.
use, yes,
Yeah.
and we're fully capable. We're humans,
Yeah.
right? We have a success-driven mechanism inside us
Yeah.
that we are reaching for goals. God created that in us. And, it's survival in some way, right? Where we want to get through the day.
Yeah. I think if you want a pro bonus tip, say it in the mirror and bring your heart to the affirmations. Like look in the mirror and bring your emotions in your heart and really like feel it. Like work on feeling it and feeling the tangibleness and those affirmations that you're telling yourself.
I know that it's just good for us to kind of think about, who am I? What do I like about myself? What do I want to grow within myself?
For me, it's all career based, I think. Especially now, ever since I graduated, I think I kind of hit a little bit of a weird spot where I'm just navigating what I want to do. Like I changed my mind like 10 times. I'm indecisive. I think for me, affirmations are mostly just like, I'm going to get whatever I worked for.
Yes.
You know?
I'll help you. You are very creative. You're very smart. You are so funny. You make people laugh. So it could be, I mean, if you were building one, I'm a smart girl who achieves her goals, who is driven by creativity, and I succeed at everything I do.
Ooh, that's a good one.
That is a good one.
Yeah.
I think a good base level one too for self-image is I'm a human that is capable.
Yes. That is good.
I'm a human that is capable.
I'm capable of X, and I'm capable of growing. I'm capable of learning. So I made a mistake. It's not who I am. I'm capable of learning and growing.
I'm capable of whatever.
Yep.
I'm
I love
capable
it.
of winning a Grammy.
Yes.
Yeah.
You are.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. I'm sorry for putting you on the
That's
spot.
so much more positive than saying how you said earlier,
I'm
like,
rich.
I'm going to be rich in a year, like the richest person, you know?
Yeah.
Reminding yourself of your capabilities is, I feel like, is way more motivating
And important.
and builds discipline. And yeah.
Good.
And I think it's the importance of that, right? Like those things are more important than, I mean, I think people generally think money will solve everything.
Yeah.
Like I've had lots of money, I've had little money.
Yeah.
Sometimes the littlest of the money, we were the happiest. Maybe not your dad.
That's funny.
So I guess we need to talk. Okay, so we've got some strategies. We talked about mistakes, not failures, visualization, using visualization to create successes, affirmations to see who you truly, really are. And we're going to talk about dehypnotization and deprogramming a little bit. We already kind of talk about that false belief system. And this is kind of in line with all of the other subjects as well. I think when we find that lie, we have to replace it with truth. So let's say you feel like you're not worthy because you're not worthy of being loved because maybe your mom didn't love you or your dad didn't love you or your dad abandoned you. Or I mean, there's 100 different ways this can happen, right? Or maybe you had a workaholic for a parent or an alcoholic. There's tons of ways to feel unworthy and unlovable, right?
Absolutely.
So is it true? Is it true that you're unworthy and unlovable? So if I were to tell you I'm not worthy of love, what would you say, Nicole?
I would tell you that's wrong.
That's a lie,
It's
right?
freaking nonsense.
It's a lie. It's a
Yeah.
lie. So we have to replace it with truth.
Yeah.
So deprogramming and dehypnotizing, because the world hypnotizes us with all kinds of lies.
Yeah.
And we touched on that a little bit with social media.
Yeah.
But the world is telling us a lot of lies. Like, you need to look like this and have this and be this, and then you'll be perfect.
Yep.
And it's a lie. It's a lie. You need to be you. You need to be who you were created to be. You need to live for the purpose you were given. You need to utilize your skills, talents, and abilities. You know, that's what I tell myself.
I think it's kind of nice to have like an accountable person to like talk to. So like for you, like when you have negative self-talk, like I call you out on it, you call me out on it, and then we all do that together.
Yeah, we all do.
It is
all kind of help each other identify those moments, right?
It is nice. And I have to tell you, like, okay, so it's my weight issue that you help me with a lot. So I will say, I used to say things, because I don't say them anymore, like, I'm so fat in this, I'm so fat in this. And you really correct my behavior on that. And I'm like, okay, like if I believe in the power of words, if I keep saying this, even if I'm not, I'm gonna be. Like
It's so
you create
strange.
it. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. And it's strange, like how many things, like you are where you are because of how you think about yourself, really. I mean, and
How a man's heart thinketh.
yeah, you are exactly where you are for a reason. You know
It's
what I
your
mean?
thoughts.
Yeah, it's your thoughts. You have put yourself here because of yourself. So I think that, I forgot where I was going. My bad. I just interrupted.
No, I interrupted you, but I like where you were going with that, because it is the power of your thoughts that tell you who you are,
Yeah.
tell you what your self-image is.
Oh, so you get so used to that, right? And used to having a problem. So there's obviously one that, like, for you is like your weight, right? Once you accomplish that and feel like, or like get to a point where you're like beating it, it's so surprising how many little things I tell myself that I was like, oh, why I say that to myself?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a weird, I didn't even think about how that could be impacting myself and like programming myself.
You don't even notice.
You don't notice.
Really
That's
don't
the
notice
dangerous
it.
thing.
So I think it, like we were talking about the habit, it becomes this on a subconscious level.
Yeah.
Because it's such a part, it became part of my identity. I struggle with my weight. That was part of my identity. I will never say that again.
Yep.
I do not. I'm healthy. I work out. This is my affirmation. I like to eat nutrient dense foods.
Yeah.
I mean, there's an affirmation for everything, right?
Yeah.
It's a reframing. So that was part of the dehypnotizing, deprogramming. Okay. So you take this lie and then you turn it into a truth.
Yeah.
And I do like nutrient dense foods. So, but I want to fill my body with those.
Yeah.
So it's an easy thing for me to say.
Yeah. Redirecting is key and hard to do alone.
It is when it's so ingrained in your identity.
Yeah. Yep.
It is. You know, the easy things to change, I notice, are the things that weren't part of me since my childhood. I notice that those things have been easier to deal with and fix.
If you don't have a friend to be accountable for, pay for one. Get a therapist.
Pay for one. We
Get a
call them
therapist.
counselors.
Yeah. That's funny. Yep. Pay for one. Pay for a best friend.
But do. I think that's wise because, I mean, we all want happiness and success, and you need to feel good about yourself.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
the cornerstone of the whole thing.
Yeah.
So thinking rationally, and we keep talking about this, everything starts with a thought. And one of the things that I found I used to do is I would dwell on the past. Like if there's a couple people in my life that maybe trigger me or have hurt me, if they mess up again, I'll use your dad because he doesn't do this anymore. How's that? Some of the things your dad would do would like trigger me. And then I would recount every horrible thing that has ever happened in our marriage and go,
It's interesting.
Here we are again.
So that's so weird. So when I dwell in the past, I remember there was a time when I was working at the restaurant and I didn't like my behavior and I didn't like what the things I said and I feel like I hurt somebody's feelings and I was acting inappropriately. My dwelling in the past was like shameful. Like it was like, I don't like myself.
So that would happen too.
Yeah,
That happens too.
Yeah.
It's whatever that bad feeling is, right? That's holding you back from feeling good about yourself, which that's a bad feeling. That doesn't make you feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
The thing dad would say or do that would remind me of who we used to be made me not feel good about myself.
Yeah.
It made me feel like, we're going back here.
Oh, interesting.
We're going back here and I can't do it. I can't be who you required me to be. I get to have an opinion.
Yeah.
I get to do, and he's totally fine with that. Like, I don't want to say your dad is not that. He's just not that guy. He never was. I thought he was. I created a person that wasn't even there.
So interesting.
It is. It's really messed up. So one of the...
Hey, you're aware of it. We're good.
One of the strategies in this book is to think rationally.
Yeah.
And that was irrational, right? And dwelling on the past or on these things, like I'm going to use a really tough example right now. I was just listening to a podcast of a cult member, and she was sexually abused. And the podcast, the person hosting the podcast said something to the fact that she had a friend who was abused and was told, don't dwell on it. Like, don't think about it. It's not who you are. That was a bad guy. That was a bad thing that happened, but don't think about it. So the friend, interestingly enough, and I'm not saying this is not my soapbox. This is just something that somebody said that made sense with this conversation, that it didn't affect her in such a big way because it wasn't her fault.
Well, I wonder
she was
how
able
much-
to compartmentalize it, and she didn't live there.
Well,
she wasn't living in that space.
Yeah. And I wonder what the line is, though, with actually processing what happened.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think, truth right there.
Yeah.
Truth. We have to process what happens. We have to reflect on what happens. And I'm not saying in that case, women, like,
We're not the experts, but
no. But I am saying it was an interesting thought because those things have happened to most women, right? And
was it 1 in 3?
yes, I don't know anyone
crazy.
that hasn't been abused sexually
Disgusting.
in some way, raped, molested, some kind of sexual abuse. I do not know a woman, probably,
That's disgusting.
that hasn't had that happen.
That's truly disgusting.
So you have to think about it. I've had it happen. And you think about, okay, I can dwell here with it and think about it and be a victim of it my entire life.
That
right?
makes sense. Yeah.
Or I can process it
Yeah.
and deal with it. But I think when you go back and you're thinking about it and living there all the time, then it's like, you can't help but have some thoughts come up in that situation. Like, what did I do? And this is not truth. This is not truth. This is one of those lies we start to believe. What did I do to create this situation?
Yeah. Yeah.
I did this. Why did I do that? Like, and this was a very young age. And when I did go to therapy, I went to EMDR, which I highly recommend from anyone who's had any kind of trauma.
Yeah.
And she helped me reframe that. And she said, would you tell a 12-year-old girl she was responsible for that?
Absolutely.
For getting into that car?
Absolutely not.
Would you blame a 12-year-old for not knowing better?
Interesting.
Of course you wouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds insane, but do you hear the think rationally?
Yeah.
And then I was able to move on from that because I saw the truth.
Yeah. So it's interesting, like thinking rationally is taking your emotions out of it
Yes.
and stepping outside of it.
Yeah,
It is.
that's interesting.
Right?
That's
Yeah.
a good.
That's
That's,
a
an
good way to
interesting
say it.
perspective.
Thank you.
That was a really good way to say it.
Thank you.
I'm glad I was here to show you the irrational side of it so you could think through that.
I'm glad you liked it.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the quote here that I wrote down from the book that really helped me, and I'm going to say this. Here's my soapbox. That was probably a really poor example for this. I was actually thinking of something else when I was talking about. We were going to talk about this. That I experienced something in my past that wasn't quite. I wasn't actually going to bring that up, but it was something that wasn't quite that graphic.
Yeah.
But it comes up a lot for me.
Yeah.
And it's a person who's currently in my life, so I can't say what it is.
Yeah.
But I dwell on it because it still hurts me, right? But not as much as I used to. But what I've done is I found compassion for that person. I found ways to love that person. And when I redirect the thought, I go, okay, so this person
Forgiveness
doesn't know better. This person does not know better. They really don't. This person is trying their best in life, truly, not, and those aren't platitudes, okay? Because sometimes we say, oh, they do the best they can, and that's not true. This person truly is. They seek help, they walk, they do the work. And they're not the same person that they are. But somehow I still get triggered on occasion and pretend like they're that same person. Because the thing that happens. So I have to go through this whole redirection of thoughts and be rational. Okay, who is this person now? Who am I now? We are not the same people we were. Yeah. We are two different people. We are both growing. We love each other. That's not your dad. So,
I've shed skin.
I would just tell you if it was your dad.
I've shed skin 40 times this past year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, who am I to tell you who you are?
Exactly. And who am I to say who that person is?
Yeah, yeah.
So I have to go through that whole deal from being irrational to rational. Because the irrational thing is we're not in the trauma we were years ago. We're not there. We've both grown from it. And the quote that I got from the book that I wanted to, that made me think of this was the unhappiest humans are living in the past, digging it up, dwelling on it, and ruminating in it.
Facts.
And
all facts.
Yeah. We spend too much time sometimes living in the pain of the past instead of enjoying life.
Present.
And I think not dwelling on it, but dealing with it. Please always deal with your trauma. Always. Huge fan of EMDR. Huge fan.
Many good results.
Yes. Yes, it's been life-changing for many people in our family. So praise God.
Amen.
All right. So we need to also examine and track down our beliefs, which is part of what we were just saying of processing this information, and do it with a counselor if you need one, please. But sometimes it's not that big of a deal. You can kind of track down the belief. You're like, why do I think this? And you can kind of go back, where did I get that idea?
Yeah.
Like, I went to college. I was a young mom. I had a baby when I was 19, your brother. And I just became a crazy person and had to get perfect grades because some counselor said I wasn't college material. So then I went, I don't know, you just turn into like a crazy person.
Yeah.
But you had to, I trace back, why am I acting like this? Why am I putting so much weight on this average of school at a community college?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was, you can trace back to where it started. And it was like, oh, from that. Well, is that truth? I mean, am I accepting a truth from somebody who's seen me a few horrible points in my life? Or am I going to accept the truth from who I know about me? I know my whole story. I know who I am. I know what I'm capable of. God knows who I am.
Yeah.
Or some person who's just seen the worst of me.
So I just did a reel, like, be hesitant to accept, or was it be hesitant, or to accept information from unknowledgeable people?
Yes.
Like, if I didn't know you, it's not good for you to take my opinion on you, right?
Right.
If
you've only seen the bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be hesitant to accept a knowledgeable.
Because you only go to a counselor in high school if you're behaving badly.
Yeah.
So you probably never even knew your high school counselor.
Yeah, no, I don't think I did.
Did you, either of you?
I did.
Actually, yeah, I do. Yeah. He's a
That's
pretty cool
awesome.
guy.
So if we track down the belief, I like this practice of asking why. And Tony Robbins taught this. This was also in the book, but he taught it. Ask 7 layers deep on any belief system that you have. Ask why. Why do you believe that? Why? And just keep going.
Why?
And eventually you get to the core of it. And then the next question that in this book on tracking down that belief, when you identify a negative behavior, let me just give you an example. Let's say you have this negative behavior belief system that nobody likes you, or I can't succeed, or you keep quitting when you're about to succeed. And you're just trying to figure out, why is this not working? Then you have to just track down the why. And then the next question, is there a rational belief for me to believe this? Like, okay, so let's use our podcast, the first 2, as an example. I mean, there might have been a rational belief that maybe we should hang it up.
Yeah. There was some mess ups. It's okay. We learned a lot.
We did.
We learned a lot.
There might have been a rational belief for that.
Yeah. But this one.
Wow, this is fire.
Yeah.
I know. I agree.
So, but could you be mistaken in that belief? Okay, so our mistake would have been, had we just quit right then, would be like, well, let's try it enough to see if it's true, right? Or is it true that nobody could love you? Is that really true?
Yeah.
You really, in this whole world of, what do we have, 8 billion? I don't know where we're at,
Yeah.
people. There's truly nobody that could love you?
8 billion. Yeah. It's crazy.
I find that hard to believe.
Yep.
Right. So you might be mistaken if that's your belief system.
Especially when choosing to love somebody is a little more subjective. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. And then would you draw the same conclusion if it was about somebody else? It's kind of like when I asked you, I can't even remember what I asked you earlier, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Would you draw that conclusion if it was about someone else? Like, let's use my 12-year-old example. Would I draw that conclusion if it was about my 12-year-old niece?
Yep.
Yeah.
No. I'd be ready to
Step outside the box.
Yeah. I'd be ready to go find. Anyway.
What's up?
So, and then the last question in the book, when you're examining your beliefs, is why should you continue to feel as if the initial thought is true when there's no good reason to believe it? And I really like that line of questioning to go through there. If
That's a good frame.
Maybe you can't afford a counselor. Maybe you don't have a best friend.
Yeah.
Go through those.
Yeah.
Read the book.
Yeah.
You know, some of the chapters I have read multiple times because they're so good. So think rationally. Let sleeping dogs lie. Let things that don't matter, let them lie. Let them go.
Agreed.
Choose to be happy. Don't live in that pain. Don't dwell. Don't ruminate. And track down your beliefs. Because that was a long topic. I thought I'd reiterate it.
Good.
Happiness habit. This is what I love. So, Tyler, you've done a lot of work in this area, and I am so happy for you. And it's called the happiness habit, right?
Oh, yeah.
You've done a lot of area in this work to improve your self-image. And I have to tell you, as a mother, there's nothing, well, there's a few things, but it's one of the top 3 things that I'm so thankful for, that you actively seek happiness. Because it's a hard world out there.
Yeah.
And when your kids aren't happy, it's painful. It's painful, painful, painful. And you have to want it. And thank you for wanting it.
Yeah.
And going after it.
Yeah. And it's so rewarding to want it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Oh man, the amount of peace that you get from wanting it, you know? And I didn't want it for a long time. So Abraham Lincoln, he has this cool quote. What is it? Let me read it to you. Most people are about as happy as they make up their mind to be. And it's just like,
Truth.
man, happiness is really a decision at the end of the day.
It takes effort.
Yeah. Things don't determine our happiness. We determine our happiness. We get to choose the silver lining. We get to have the choice to see something, even if it's bad. You can see positive in anything, right? And sometimes we go through real hard stuff and it feels impossible to be happy. But
Or to find something happy in it.
yeah. When you can look down at the layers. This is
Yes.
something that's going to build me up, right?
Well, I think sometimes when we're unhappy in a situation, like if I think about my own life, it's because of a thought that I perceive of something that is going to happen or an opinion that I made up that isn't even true.
Yeah.
You know?
It's interesting. So like with those failure mechanisms that I talked about, we obviously like have those defense mechanisms that we react with, right?
Right.
We think that those are going to bring us to happiness, but they never do. And it really is just up to you.
Yeah.
You know
Because
what
we
I mean?
want to be, sometimes we feel like it's righteous to be angry in that situation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, until you realize you're
Yeah.
just self-inflicting damage.
Yes. Or to be in an unforgiving state of mind with somebody who's hurt us. It's like
Yeah.
they don't deserve the forgiveness, but guess what?
Yeah.
It's us we're hurting. And so we can choose to learn to forgive somebody.
Yeah.
Or we can choose to learn to be happy.
Yeah, and it's not easy always to do that. You have to make it a habit. So a habit is something that we do routinely, automatically. Like, and a lot of our moods, behaviors, actions are automatic habits. So the cool thing is like they can be changed, you know what I mean? And it can be changed through the intentional mindfulness of choosing to be happy over time and being in moments that aren't great, but you still choose happiness and you make that the center. You know what I mean? And I know that there's like a personal experience of mine where I kind of, you know, a little light went on in my head. You know what I mean? And I was out and I just wasn't happy about being out with this certain group of friends. And like, I love them, but I was just struggling to be like present there because I felt like I was being in the past. If I can't like control this dynamic that's happening here, I know that I can control where my mind goes. And there's music playing in the background and I know that, and that's my peace. You know what I mean? I love music. I can go to that with peace and make that my happy space in my head for that moment when I have big forms of anxiety and I'm not involved in the situation that's happening. You know
So
what I mean?
you were uncomfortable and felt anxiety and
Yeah.
you could have dwelt on that, but you
Yeah.
chose to find something external in that
Yeah.
situation to make you happy.
To search for happiness. Yeah. And like a happy place in general, like searching for a happy place. So maybe I'm having a bad day at home. I'm alone. I can go outside and go chill in the pool and go to my favorite place in the pool right over there on the floaty, right? I can go hang out and just relax and connect with God and choose a happy place for myself. You know what I mean?
Yes. Don't you love looking up at that big Arizona blue sky?
Dude, it's cool with the trees.
I
It's cool
know,
when you're in
that
the
pool
floaty.
is really nice.
It's
And
nice,
you see
isn't
the
it?
trees like coming over. And you're like, oh, this is a blessing.
It is.
God, you're such a show off.
So cool. That is so cool.
I know that with like happiness, something that brings me a lot of happiness is having worthwhile goals. And I think it's super important in building your self-image as well to have worthwhile goals because you're working towards achieving something. You're going to achieve it at some point.
Yeah, I agree.
And it builds your self-image because you understand how capable you are. I know that before I had music in my life or real clear objectives about what I was doing with myself and my time, I was so unhappy and I'd so lost and so like empty, you know what I mean? Because I couldn't express myself creatively. I couldn't just be useful, you know what I mean? And I couldn't
To yourself even.
Yeah, and that just alone was like, okay, I'm not capable and I'm not worthy of having something like this until I found it. And I was like, oh, why haven't I been doing this my whole life?
Well, and it's the success.
Why didn't I start
breeds
sooner?
Success, right?
Yeah,
You took the little successes and it leads you to the bigger goals.
Yeah.
And I just look at you and all you've accomplished with school and your future goals, like just graduating from college. That's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a huge
It was
accomplishment.
hard.
Congrats.
Honestly. Thank you.
Yes. But doesn't it feel like you can do anything now?
Yeah, it does.
Because you're considering law school. But you know you can do that.
Yeah,
You know,
I do.
because you did this goal. Had you, only made it through community college, like me, and then go to that second level, right?
Yeah.
But you did, and you went to the next level, and now you're just contemplating where you want to be.
Yeah, my next step.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you have more confidence because of where you're going next, do you think? Because
Yeah,
you completed
I
that
do.
huge
You have
goal?
something to stand on.
I do. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it is. I just have a good foundation, I guess.
It's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us today in our discussion about self-image. I just want to leave this with you two as well, and you, is like, just be who you were created to be.
Yeah.
You were created with a unique DNA, design. Your creator thought of you lovingly when he put in you your skills, talents, and abilities that are unique to you and you out there. And you're perfectly imperfect. You're exactly where you're supposed to be in life right now, today.
You have worth right now, today.
Today.
You have worth.
Exactly. And
You are capable.
yes,
Hit them
we're all
affirmations.
capable. We're all capable. We're humans.
We can do anything just by being human, really.
Yes.
Like anything. And
exactly
anything.
And we all have success-driven
crazy?
mechanism in us because we're breathing and alive, and we found food today.
Facts.
So if
Yep.
you don't have a success to start with, just start with that success. You got fed today, right?
I got fed today.
Yeah. I think embrace who you are, love who you are, find out who you are. And when doubts and insecurities come up, try remember maybe some of the tools we gave you today, the visualization, the affirmations, the negative self-talk, remove it. Stop comparing yourself to anybody else. You are perfectly made the way you are. We don't need another one of those people. We need you, right? The world needs you,
Build your
just the way you
mindfulness.
are.
Build your mindfulness. Oh, that's a big one.
Build your mindfulness.
Yeah.
Practice self-compassion.
Yeah.
Oh, forgive
Just
yourself.
self-care in general, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you make a mistake, forgive yourself and move forward.
It's
like quickly.
the right
Course
way.
correct and move forward. Forge ahead. I think when we don't make that course correction, we can't be who we were designed to be.
Yeah.
You can't. And I was just realizing, even with your father and I, and we've done so much since then, we aren't fully being who we were designed to be because we haven't fully course corrected from the pain of losing everything. So, we act a little inappropriately and we act a little too safe sometimes now. And I think God is calling us to more boldness. But anyway, so
like boldness.
I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Tyler, for sharing your stories, your perspectives. I know they're going to help other people. They help me.
Good.
And thank you, listeners, for joining us. And I want you to like and subscribe if you would.
Yeah, do it. Smash
it helps
Hit 'em.
us and it helps you hopefully in return because this content will bring more content. But in addition to that, other people who might need to see this will. So thank you for joining us. And we're going to be back soon with our discussion on boundaries. And as you could tell probably from this discussion, that's something I've had to develop. So we have quite an arsenal here of somebody who hasn't grown up with boundaries and you grew up with a boundaryless mother. So we have learned a lot
Oh, yeah.
about what boundaries are, how to create them, and how to enforce them, and how to enforce them when it's difficult with like a mom, with an aging mom, with your boss, with your girlfriend, with your boyfriend.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to discuss all of that coming up soon. So look forward to seeing you. And please add your comments below because this isn't just our platform. Like we say, we want to hear from you. If you have tips, strategies, add them. We want to learn from you as well. And thanks so much.
Help us help you.
Help us help you. Yeah. Help it and help us.
Yeah. And help us. That'd be sick.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.